Let's run through the grid for you. From the top 10 shootout, we see the all Holden front row, Murphy and Bright. Bear in mind that Bright outpaced Murphy to the first corner at Albert Park when they were side by side just a couple of weeks ago, so that'll be a focal point as they head into centre chicane. Marcus Ambrose just behind them after being a couple of tenths quicker than anyone else in regular qualifying. As we look down through the top 8, great to see Steve Ellery, Max Wilson in there, and likewise Gary Rogers Motorsport through Garth Tander, a fair way ahead of his new chum Cameron McConville. Radisich and Wills making up the top 10. Outside them, Rick Kelly, who was momentarily in the shootout. It would have been confusing for him because Radisich was, as I said earlier, bumped out of the 10 and then reinstated following an appeal. Stephen Johnson had been a little quicker than that in earlier sessions, so he was a little bit slower, in fact, in his final qualifying session than he was earlier in the day. So a puzzle there for Shell Helix Racing. Paul Morris bouncing in and out of the top 10 throughout regular qualifying. I mentioned earlier, across the top 16 cars, only 1 second. Warren Luff in his first serious outing here for Shell Helix Racing. Big experience ahead of him. Dale Breed further down the order. Extra driver, of course, for Team Dynamics. Simon Wills much further up the order, and Mark Winterbottom from Orcon Racing rounding out the field. And Paul Wheel had a few problems yesterday, should be much quicker than that in the race.
They say how tough this circuit is. They talk about the heat. What about the number of gear changes? An average of 24 changes per lap. That works out at something like 1,870 shifts per 78-lap event. Crompton, you've done this. You wear a hole in your left hand, don't you?
Well, very often you'll come back and it's red raw, the palm on your left hand. And to combat that, what a lot of drivers do is wear an inner glove, like a cycling glove, to just try and reduce the friction on your hand. Your skin ends up being so waterlogged, so soft, rips out. We are set to go racing.
The roar is building, and it goes. Green for 2004. There's great battle into the centre chicane, pretty clean further back through the field, and Murphy wins out for now over Jason Bright.
Great start by Russell Engel. He got the jump on them there, made a beautiful start in the Caltex Ford as they thunder up Wakefield Street into the brakes into turn 4 for the first time. Ambrose jumps Bright.
Great move there, catching Jason Bright out. They have to be careful though, there's a long way to go.
31 cars in all as they weave through this tight, twisting second gear section. Greg Murphy, though, in command as they head onto the Adelaide Straight for the first of 78 times. Marcus Ambrose hot in pursuit.
John Bauer prominent as well. They were nose to tail from second through to fourth there.
Todd Kelly goes right over the exit curb as they head down toward turn 8. There's the smoke puffing from that Kmart Commodore.
Kelly, it was a pretty clean start. Murphy, though, his car absolutely on the money, straight away, front left guard is rubbing on Kelly's car. No doubt some light contact in the opening couple of corners.
It's always a drama when you start back in that mid-pack there. Don't want any damage on the car, particularly in the opening lap of such a long race. And look at how close they are, really leaning on each other as they come back toward the pit straight for the first time.
Critical move by Ambrose at just the right time on cold tyres to sneak up the inside of Jason Bright, who was the quick man in the warm-up this morning. We complete the first lap, and the standing lap time for Greg Murphy at 30.2. A 0.9 margin as the 888 cars run side by side to turn 1.
And a wall they form in front of a very determined Mark Scaife. That is going to be a big problem for him.
Ford and Holden flags waving at the top of Wakefield Street, hard under brakes. Mark Scaife, car 2. Found himself outside the top 10. He's still outside, in fact, 11th in the queue.
And Stephen Richards right behind him. Absolutely bumper to bumper here. Murphy seemingly the only one who's safe as they run nose to tail from there on.
Sweeping down through turn 8, 240 kilometres an hour on the approach to the hairpin, turn 9. Greg Murphy trying to build a buffer here. But there's so much quality.
Oh, someone's in the wall at turn 8.
That's one of the Holden Racing Team Commodores. Goodness me, Todd Kelly. Car 22. And look at the damage to the Holden Racing Team Commodore. He's given that exit wall a hell of a whack.
Well, he may have been forced wide there because there was quite a cluster of cars further back through the field. We'll have to take a closer look at that, of course.
They bring out a safety car too, Bill, if they can't get that car into a safer position. So the big crowd here on the main straight. Greg Murphy comes past, Ambrose in second, Bright in third, Bow in fourth after a late engine change. Russell Ingall sitting in fifth, Tander, Ellery, Rick Kelly in eighth, Wilson and Radicic, the two 888 engineering Fords, fill out the top 10.
Murphy's got just over a second now on Marcus Ambrose. And there's a little cluster there. Let's have another look at the Kelly incident. No.
That's Scaife.
Scaife's come through. Further back. Well, he was a bit wide, wasn't he, Todd? But I'm not sure whether Lowndes had anything to do with that. They were a fair way apart.
Yeah, I think he has just gone in there a little wide of the mark, and you only need to be one or even half a car width wide of the ideal race line, and there'll be no grip available there with the dust and the rubber debris. And its car's got crossed up, and Todd's whacked the wall, and that'll put that car out of business for the day. Could be out of business for the weekend. That'll be pretty substantial damage. Bow's working hard on the back of Bright here, and it looks like he's got more car speed. Lap 3 of 78, so tyre pressures have normalised. Brake temperatures have come up to speed, and this will be the first true indication for a lot of the competitors of precisely what their cars are like. Here's a replay of the start. Watch Russell Ingall. He gets a burster of a start from, look at him down the inside from row 4. So he makes gains. Ambrose is ideally positioned. In fact, Bright gets pinched a little bit going through the chicane, which is why he was vulnerable when they got to the braking area of turn 4.
Greg Murphy, the fastest man on the circuit, a 1:24.37. As he sets the pace here, 1.1 seconds the gap over Ambrose in second place.
I noticed further back in the field in that start too, Stephen Johnson was a little taily going through centre chicane, and that cost him a couple of positions as well. He's back to 17th.
Pit window is open, of course. Opened on lap 2, closes on lap 57, and that's when these teams have to make their 2 compulsory stops, one for tyres and one for fuel. The strategy and the speed of those stops will have a big effect on determining the winner of this race. On board with Greg Murphy.
The impact of those, Mark, in total time lost on average, and you can only talk averages and it assumes no fumbling in the pit stop, but for tyres, a competitor can expect to drop 30 seconds from a normal lap time, and when you take on board fuel, you can add another 5 up to 10 seconds for that, because of course it depends on the strategy. Some teams will have chosen to run a lighter first segment here and then take on their full load of fuel for the back end. Remember, the capacity in these cars is 120 litres. The total fuel requirement for this race, with a burn rate of about 2.2 litres a lap, is 180 litres for the entire race. How you choose to deal with that is down to individual preference.
Top 6 cars have broken away a little bit here.
I thought Ambrose had gone faster that time. He's closed in on Murphy there, a 1:24.17. He's gone 2/10 quicker than Murph.
Both these two leading cars glide through that bump at turn 2. They don't even get upset by the curbing, and that's one of the reasons. In fact, it's beyond the first couple of cars. The first group of cars I watched through that chicane, and they're just riding beautifully, but there's a lot of cars out there that are very noticeably upset by the curbing.
Tander is 1 second behind the top 5. He's just struggling to stay in pace with the lead group, and then there's 3 seconds to Rick Kelly, the 7th placed car.
Onto the Adelaide straight now, working up through the gears. You can see the telemetry, the Dunlop telemetry at the base of your screen. Into 6th gear, just a slight lift, and they fire through here. Enormous cornering speed. And then they've got to go from 6th right back to 2nd for the hairpin.
And different drivers choose to do it different ways. Some of them will go down very close to the wall.
How close was that?
Some of them choose to go back through each gear, Mark. When you're on board with Marcus, you'll notice during this race, he just does it in one hit. So he's hard on the brakes, waits until the speed's off the car, flips it and grabs 2nd gear. There's Scape. He's up to position 11 at the moment behind Ellery.
Ellery was, before this lap, in front of the 2 888 cars, so he is obviously the next target for Mark. But the other 2 are going forward.
Scape's been fairly static there, sitting in 11th spot. He hasn't moved up a position.
New fastest lap for Jason Bright, 1:23.9. By comparison, on the last lap, Ambrose did a 4.3 and Greg Murphy did a 4.4. Russell Ingall did a 4.0, so Russell's got speed as well.
You can hear the call from Robbie Starr. Oh, there's problems here. You can see everyone avoiding action.
Yeah, one car there in trouble. It's one of the 888 cars. Problem with the right rear, is it? Why does that car wriggle around like it does? It's Max Wilson.
Saw Max in lots of trouble coming through the sweeper on the previous lap. This is probably an indication of what was going on. That right rear wheel.
Tyre.
Tyre, is it? Yep. So he's lucky to get away with that. That didn't come unglued at such a high speed.
When that onboard shot showed that there was some sort of aggravation, you see how little time you've got to make a decision about where you want to be. The cars are extremely quick up Wakefield Street. Ultimately end up in 5th gear on the run up there. And this is very costly for Wilson and Triple Eight.
Max has got to try and limp it back to pit lane. Hopefully that tyre carcass will hang together. Let's have a look at...
Does he brush the wall? No, he loops it.
Well, that's probably where the tyre's gone there.
But why did the tyre deflate? Will be the question that team's asking.
Great evasive action there.
That was close for Scaife, wasn't it?
Well, we were on board with Stephen Richards, and you saw just how little time he had to react.
Just had a call Rockstar to Mark Scaife saying, be patient, be patient. Obviously running to tightly determined pre-race plan. Here comes Wilson, and it looks like the threads of that carcass are still there protecting that rim, so he may be able to get back to the pits without too much damage. But only the mechanics will be able to tell the true story.
What he'll be trying very, very hard to avoid is going one lap down.
Look at it, it's just shredding itself here.
The rim's not quite on the road there. So
he's lost a lot of time. He could easily go a lap down here.
Well, what a shame.
Is very, very tight, and it's always slippery. We've seen through the history of Formula 1 and V8 Supercar here, various people whack that wall on the outside. Rusty's going to be on the spot, so we might get an indication shortly as to what might have gone on, but that tyre, there won't be much to investigate when it turns up.
Well, part of me is wondering whether maybe some debris from the Kelly car may have affected that right rear tyre. The boys have had a look underneath it. They can't see any obvious signs of what on the car, on the Triple H car, may have caused that tyre to puncture. Good stop, but a costly one for Max.
He might squeak out though, Rusty. He might just squeak out before the mob get back on top of him again.
He does.
Okay, well, that's important, that's critical, because if we get a safety car situation in this race, he'll get back onto the compressed train, and at least with a reasonably competitive car, it puts you back in the fight. Makes it a hard one, but you're not out of business.
Tell you what, if they've chosen to include that as their compulsory tyre change, that's a long run on this set of tyres too, isn't it? If he's come in on lap 7.
I was that focused on the right rear, I didn't notice whether they did all four.
Did all 4 tyres. Let's have a look at the replay here if we can, and you'll see Scaife making an attack on Steve Ellery under brakes into turn 9. So he's starting to make his move now. You can see he sat in 11th position for those opening laps until things settled. Temperatures came up, tyre pressures came up.
Well, with Maxi, of course, out of the equation, that puts Scaife up to 9th. Race 1 of the Clipsal 500, and contact here between Paul Morris and Bradley Jones further back in the field. Morris was 16th and Brad Jones was just ahead of him. When one wonders now whether Brad will be very cautious about what he has to say following events surrounding Rick Kelly in Melbourne. Now there's problems for Shell Helix Racing. Looks like they can't get a wheel off here in a scheduled pit stop. I think it's a scheduled pit stop, Greg.
No, Billy, this is not part of the plan. It sounds as though Stephen may have run over inadvertently some debris of some kind, and it's obviously caught inside there. The team are having real dramas getting that flat right front tyre off. The car had gradually or slowly gone flat. Dick Johnson's with us. Can you shed some more light on it?
Well, he actually ran up with some debris when young Kelly hit the wall up there, and it's got jammed up in the suspension in the front. It's rubbed through a front wheel, and now the wheel won't come off because half the mechanism's gone.
As you can hear, guys, very noisy scenario going on down at the moment, but there's been some other pit activity. David Bernard is in for a lengthy stop, and Jason Richards came in as well for Tasman Motorsport. He was involved in an altercation, he thinks, with Craig Baird, broke the rear anti-roll bar, and the team have now disconnected the front one to compensate.
Well, a couple of the new teams there having problems. That is Bernard's Wright Patterson Shakespeare entry and the new Tasman team. So welcome to V8 Supercar Racing.
Wouldn't be a lot of humour driving around here without an anti-roll bar on the front and the back of the car. It'll roll all over the place, so that'll make his job pretty ugly.
Back out on the track, the gap between Murphy and Ambrose is out to 1.3 seconds. We're on board with Stephen Richards.
He's in 10th. Mark Scaife just up ahead of him is 9th.
One of the most exciting races of his career was this time last year in the VX Commodore as he nibbles away at the inside of Scaife, who leaves room when a push came to shove. And in fact, it was Richards chasing Mark Scaife last year, and they had a heck of a battle.
Well, that is interesting to see the man who has had so much success here. He and Craig Lowndes share the record for 4 race wins each. Lowndes, of course, spreading that across Ford and Holden. But Scafie came out on top after conceding victory to Ambrose in race 1 here last year. So it's unusual to see Stephen Richards not only pass him, but put in some space very quickly. Back with the leaders.
This gap between the first 3 continues to seesaw. It looked for a while as though Marcus had a little bit of extra car speed and he was nibbling away at the back of Murphy. He's just lost a little bit of ground in the last couple of minutes. Jason Bright's brought in now. John Bowes staying in touch. Of course, Russell Ingall's in there as well. No doubt still the work continues. Look at this. They've got the grinder in there to try and get the wheel nut off the DJR car. What a job to have to do in the pit lane in the middle of a motor race.
It's going to try and cut it in half. Take it away in 2 pieces.
Not seen the like of this for a long time.
Well, it's a drama we've seen quite often with these centre lock wheel nuts. They have massive torque loads to tighten them up to the tension required to hold the wheel. And if there's any dramas like this, you're really stuck with them. Oh, hello. This is on the back straight, apparently.
I thought it was autumn, not spring.
Someone's dropped a coil spring out of their chassis. I wonder if that's from Todd Kelly's car.
Yeah, it'll be from that massive impact, which means that for that to get off the
33 Snell just lodged itself over.
Means that the shock absorber's been broken on that car and the retaining collar for the spring has come adrift. So massive damage on that car. This gives you an idea of the hard work, the loaded rear tyre through that left-hander that we were looking at the right rear there.
Just something, a little bit of information we've heard from race control. Apparently that spring was stuck in the brake air intake of Cameron McConville's car for a couple of laps. He must have picked it up and carried it as a passenger as well. So it's dropped out there. And that's a bit of dangerous debris. You wouldn't want to run over something like that. So plenty of debris around this track as a result of a few altercations very early on. Big ones too.
Talking about race control, there's been a refocused effort this year from Avesco, the Australian V8 Supercar Company, TIGA, the Touring Car Entrance Group of Australia, and the Confederation of Australian Motorsport, the administrators of our sport, to try and do the very best. Hell-bent was the description, to make sure that the judicial system works to the maximum. And a number of changes have been made this year. We've got some new stewards involved in the series. Garth Weakston stays with it. Steve Chopping joins the series, and today joined also by Keith Morris. Driving standards observer remains Colin Bond. It's consistent from last year. Cameras are on board all of the cars, and that was something that was unfolded last year. During hearings now, gentlemen, the DVD recorder will be on, so the hearings are going to be recorded so that the transcripts and the hearings tally. And there we've got Bernard just offline again in the WPS Ford.
Incredibly new team that. Under Craig Gore and ex-00 Motorsport stock. They really have just arrived here with a lot of work ahead of them.
Greg.
Just to update you on the David Bernard scenario, he was in the pits before. They've got a problem with the gearbox in that car. They believe it was up in the shifter. The car was jamming in gear. At the moment, I'm still down with Stephen Johnson. We'll just climb inside the cabin here. Pretty frustrating for you right now.
Yeah, that's right, Rusty. It's I think I've run over a bit of debris from Todd Kelly's hit in the wall there, and it smashed the windscreen, and there's a massive plug underneath the right front of the car. It's done something underneath the suspension, and it's also flattened the tyre. So it's and it must have damaged the hub because they can't get the wheel nut off.
Hey, you can have this. It's damn hot in here.
Sorry, mate?
You can have this. It's damn hot in here.
Yeah, thanks, pal.
He wouldn't be feeling a bit of heat soak sitting in there for a few minutes. Boy.
Well, that team has been through a lot, of course, and even Jeff Polides, the boss of Ford, drew attention to their lack of performance for the Blue Oval in recent times. Of course, Max Wilson found his way onto the podium in the very last round of the season, and so things looked like they were starting to turn around for Dick Johnson's team, and Stephen Johnson's pace has been good, and now this.
The wheel is off, so they've managed to cut their way through that single lock wheel nut, but you can imagine the damage now to the thread. Problems here for the Super Cheap Autos Ford, smoke pouring from that.
It's collapsed on its left rear. It looks like it's got damage there as well. It looked like it had panel damage.
Looked like a bit had broken away, yes.
I wonder if he's suffered a similar fate to Craig Lowndes earlier in the week with a broken shock absorber. It's sitting down on that corner. And that tyre munching itself away under there. Ian Walburn on the radio just telling him to bring it back gently. Let's have a look.
Sorry, Marco, it's Dale Breed by the look of it.
Second of the Team Dynamic Commodores.
It's a bit of a dodgy spot there.
Yeah, this is at the end of the braking area in Wakefield Street, so turn 4. This was the corner of concern on this car. They're putting the go jacks under the car now, so they'll spin it into the garage. Murphy to Tandon second. Third is Radisic. Fourth, here he comes, is Rick Kelly. Then Bargwana, then Wills, then Bright.
Bright is the first car in this queue now who's made his compulsory tyre change.
And if you think about it, add 30 to 35 odd seconds for a net loss now for those first 7 cars, and you'll understand how far back in the field they'll be buried if they were to take a stop now. So Murphy would have to open an enormous gap to get out of jail after really making probably an odd call.
So a safety car here for Greg Murphy. In fact, all these guys, they're back to 6th place. Would be pretty handy for him at the moment. None of them have made the first of their compulsory stops. And I guess if you had a long safety car period, Neil, you can do what we were talking about, this back-to-back. Come in one lap and do your tyres, come in one lap and get your fuel, back in the queue, minimum damage.
Well, I can tell you there are no rain clouds around, so they're going to have to just play a waiting game and see. Well, Stephen Richards attacking Ingle here.
John Bow as well. Ingle goes sideways. Mark Scaife wants a slice of the action too, so he's lost 3 spots there.
All 3 of those players, that's Bow, Ingle and Richards, have made their first stop. In fact, count Scaife in that as well.
Window's open, mate. Go past and come in next lap. Go past and in next lap.
They're going to take Rusty out of the queue, but they're saying do one more lap so that they can get organised for it.
So their other cars got its 2 compulsory stops out of the way. They're going to bring teammate Ingle, so there's no double up or overlap in the pit lane. Only one car can be serviced at one time, remember. So in terms of track position at the moment, it's Murphy, Tander, Radisic, Kelly, Bargwana and Wills. Those 6 cars are yet to make the first of their stops. Oh, a little bit of fisticuffs here. You can hear tyres locking and screeching.
Oh, this is Bright coming up against Wills.
Ambrose is down in 23rd position at the moment. We'll see.
Oh, he gave him a nudge too. He's going to try another one. Stab it down the inside here at turn 7. He gets it too.
Muscles his way through, Jason Bright. Simon Wills now under threat, maybe a little unbalanced. Glenn Seaton is there.
Strategically, Bright's in a better position. He's made his compulsory stop for tyres. Only got one more stop to come for fuel.
24.2 the last flying lap for Ambrose, so it doesn't appear as though there's any residual problem in the lap speed of that car.
It's going to be interesting to match his lap times to this bunch who are all climbing all over each other. So he could be making really good track position here if he's got clear track and these guys are holding each other up.
And Bridie will be in for fuel this lap. So after making the spot on Simon Wills, he'll be in to take on fuel. 27 laps have been booked. Move again from Richards, who's got pace. Ingle goes in. We heard that call on the previous lap. That white line you see at the apex of the pit in is where the 40Ks must be engaged.
Stephen Richards passing Glenn Seaton there to go up to 7th position.
Bright's decided to go as well. Get this compulsory stop, his 2nd compulsory stop out of the way. Fuel going in. This should take him to the end of the race.
Wait.
And you can see massive fill here. That's why it's taking so long.
Go.
Russell Ingle now takes on all the
All right,
fuel
clear,
he can.
go. Track's clear, mate, straight out.
And with this extra weight over the rear wheels now, and Ambrose in front of his teammate, Bright's in front as well. With the extra weight over the rear wheels, the drivers will reset the anti-roll bars to a stiffer position and also put some rear brake on the car, meaning they'll alter the percentage bias between the front and the rear to get more braking efficiency out of the rear of the car while the kilograms are on their side. Darryl.
Neil with that quick adjustment also. Marcus Ambrose didn't, but Russell Ingle that time, they adjusted the roll centre on his car.
So Marcus Ambrose, of the 2 stoppers, is out there in front of Bright and then teammate Russell Ingle.
He's about 21st place, Billy, but that will change quite rapidly.
Murphy's on his way in for fuel. This is a critical stop. 29 laps have been booked. He's got a margin of 3.4 seconds, but you can expect him to drop a good 30-odd seconds. Look at this. We've got Bow and Scape in now, 12 and 2.
Closest Scape to the back of the Aussie male Ford.
These are second stops for each of these drivers.
You'd have to say they both had their 40Ks well calibrated then.
I think so.
Well, as these guys come in for their second stop, we'll keep an eye on that. Murphy, Tander, Radicic, Bargwanna, Kelly and Wills. Your top 6 have not yet made their first stops.
Keep in mind there's a 40-kilometre-an-hour electronic rev limiter, speed limiter on these cars for pit lane.
Go, 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 go.
13.8 seconds, so Scape's fueled up to the end.
John Bow out of the pits again, and that pretty good stop for them. Mainly the only other thing they took on board apart from fuel was some water for Mark Scape in that hot cabin.
Well, it's on here.
Just in front of Scape. Now that is track position, and that is a battle. This is on Scape and Ingle. Of course, Scape picked up a spot, getting in front of Bow. He came in behind him, went out in front of him, but now Ingle on track, and this is on for young and old.
Well, we're waiting for these positions to shake out here. Ambrose, Bright, Scape and Ingle. Ingle in front here.
Remember that Murphy's due in as well. Good service from HRT to get Scape in front of Bow. Here's Murphy, the race leader is in. He had a margin of 3.4 seconds on the last lap.
Paul Radicic. Tyres now starting to feel it after 31 laps. He's out there, but still to make his first stop. Race leader by 3.6 seconds, Darryl.
Greg Murphy in for a pretty standard stop. Team just cleaned the windscreen, taking on fuel for the first time, Murph. A little opposite to some of the other guys like Ambrose did with tyres. And there's a rush and he's out. Again in order in front of Garth Tander. And Stephen Richards coming down pit lane as well.
What's going on with car 34? Tander on the pit straight.
Looks like she is kaput. I don't
Greg?
think that engine's running.
Anything you can.
Rusty, what can you tell us?
Well, Neil, it was really odd. It turned onto the front straight. It was though Garth was going to shift a gear. It coughed and completely died, and it's got no power. He sounds as though he's trying to restart it, but no luck so far. We're in the garage with Anthony Tratt. Just describe, you've made it back. What's happened as far as your scenario is concerned? The car's got some damage, but you think there was perhaps some debris down at that part of the track?
Well, there's certainly something on the track there. I've been through there 20 times before on the same line. Not an issue. I went through there just turned the car in and off it went straight into the wall. So we radioed through to the other 2 team members, told them to keep an eye out for it and hopefully no one else grabs it. It's right on the edge of the line through that corner. So we're out for this race. We've rusted too much stuff. The steering's broken. There's a brake pedal problem. Just a shame. The car was going good. We were just marching on, taking our time and getting on with it.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Tell you what, if the safety car comes out here, it's going to hurt Paul Morris and Warren Luff. Morris some 8 seconds in front of Luff, and Luff some 8 seconds in front of Marcus Ambrose. So if we do get a safety car out here, it's going to compress those 3 together.
Go, go, go.
Rick Kelly through his stop.
And you're going to have the fast men breathing right down your neck. So this great strategy by Paul Morris Motorsport and DJR could be nullified if we get a safety car here now.
Right in the middle of the main straight, Garth Tander.
71 when it cranks.
Well,
71 now.
He's giving dashboard readings on the radio.
The CDI is up underneath the dash on the left. Can you see if it's still attached to the board?
so you've got to turn a driver into an auto electrician.
And to do that, he's got to wriggle out of his belts, and it's very difficult to move in these cars. Yep, you can see it, and he's nodding yes.
This is so frustrating. Oh, they've got the officials on the circuit now to try and push him out of
Thank
harm's
you, the end of
way.
pit lane.
Be a local yellow flag situation, I'd imagine.
It's always the intent in race control to minimise the safety car intervention if possible.
Craig Lowndes in position 9.
I just had a look at the Vesco operations manual, and I think Garth will have been excluded or black flagged. We'll get confirmation of that because when his car was pushed down pit straight, I think that's in contravention of the rules as I read them here at the moment. We'll get clarification on that.
And of course Radicic was in the pits as well while we spoke to Craig after having some problems, which is a shame for that team. Plenty of speed this weekend, encouraging.
Oh, brand new cars too. Brand new chassis for Radicic and Wilson. And this is early days yet for this team, but they're going to come on strong. They're a pretty strong engineering outfit. Rusty?
Just down in pit lane having a chat with Nigel Barclay, the team manager for Sirame Racing. You're confident that Paul's car will be good enough on those tyres at the end of the race?
Yeah, Seppi, the engineer, and Paul have been talking on the radio. He's got plenty of sway bar adjustment left, so I don't think tyres are going to be an issue at all.
We've got the restart happening now. Is the air conditioning helping, Paul?
Is
the air conditioning system in the car helping Paul, helping keep cool?
Oh, definitely. He's saying it's quite comfortable in the car. You know, we've had in the past with these back problems and things, he's sort of cured those, but he said the temperature inside the cabin's very comfortable at the moment.
Thanks, Nigel.
Now, bear in mind, Marcus
Ambrose.
Ambrose
has got it wrong.
Oh, no, and that surrenders the lead. He's managed to gather it up and stay maybe in third, probably
Jason
in fourth.
Jason Richards went straight ahead at 4 as well. So cold tyres, lost a little bit of pressure. They got no grip, and some blokes have made blues on them straight away.
Marcus Ambrose now up to second place. He was behind Mark Winterbottom, his former teammate, who was a lap down in the middle of all this battle for the top 3 positions. There he is in the Orcon racing car, just behind Morris, who's on fire now after that little mistake. Trying to reel in the gap here. Russell Ingall poised behind them. He'll be looking to get Winterbottom next.
Patience is the issue for Ambrose, but he just whisks underneath Luff pretty easy. I was going to say they gave him advice on the radio to take it easy, and Morris runs a little wide again down at turn 9. So that's costly now for Morris.
He's getting a bit flustered here. He didn't have to worry about Mark Winterbottom.
Jason Bright's on his tail now. Russell Ingall sitting behind him.
Cars have an astonishing lack of grip when you get started again. It takes a lap or two for the temperatures to come back up. Contact there, I reckon, between the PWR car and Paul Morris, who's slipping down the order slightly. So now Marcus Ambrose is the race leader.
Well, he's been bashed up, Paul Morris, hasn't he, on the restart? There's no two ways about it.
Well, Mark Winterbottom in that car 20, he's a lap car, so he didn't have to worry about defending hard from him.
Look at all the rubber debris on the edge of the road there. There's a massive amount of marbles.
What he has to watch, though, is this.
Ingall.
Yep, Ingall. They're fighting now for race position. Marcus Ambrose, Luff, Bright, Morris and Ingall fighting over 4th spot.
Stephen Richards right over the back of Russell Ingall as well.
Craig Lowndes, that moves him up to 7th. Bow up to 8th. Paul Wheel, 9th. Scaife now cracks the top 10. Car 2 is in 10th spot. Fantastic battle here. Lap 46 of 78. There's plenty more action to come. Look at Ingall. Has a look down the inside of Morris, maybe protecting his engine temperatures a little bit. Get some cool air into the radiator. It's very hot out there.
Air temperature's 29 at the moment. The track's 33, and look at this, a traffic jam into the hairpin. All of them are nose to tail. Richards is in there. Ingall's in there. Luff's got pressure on him here.
Doesn't he what? He's 27 years of age. He's been very successful in a lot of one-make formulas. This is his baptism of fire, a first full season of V8 Supercar competition. Look at Richards, under brakes here, down into the final turn. Ingall gives him racing room. It's on. So across the start-finish line once again, Ambrose. Luff in second, he's under attack from Bright. Morris, Stephen Richards.
Brighty, if he's just patient here, has got a possibility of getting up the inside here at turn 4. Does he find some room?
Morris looking untied, he's gone to the outside. Luff defending well here. He is in the best company in the business. This is the top shelf of V8 Supercar racing, and this rookie, he's getting a bit of a queue forming behind him, but he's fighting hard. And Bright wants to run down the inside. Got him.
And Luff backs it into the tyres, and that gives them an opportunity now to attack Marcus Ambrose, the big beneficiary.
The call is to stay calm, and he was under plenty of pressure there.
Well, I'm sure Warren was ready to be thrust into the middle of the field. Bright has sustained some damage.
Just come in as quick as we can and we'll do tyres.
That's the penalty he paid.
Oh, Richards was having a look at Jason, and Ingall at the same time had a look at Stephen up the inside. Richards does go through on Bright. Can Ingall capitalise as well?
They're all bunging into one another back in the pack. It's the full mid-afternoon traffic concertina back there.
Escapes right up on the curbs coming out of the hairpin. Well, that's evasive action.
That left front of Brighty's is a problem, and he had to go out over the ripple strip as well. That won't help the situation. You can still see smoke coming there, whether it's fender on rubber.
It'll be interesting to see Bright's.
Righto, Jace, how much is it slowing you up, mate? How much is it slowing you up?
They're just in consultation with Brighty at the moment as to whether he's got any steering damage.
Jace, can you give us an idea how much is slowing you up?
There's the scuff on the car.
Phil Key. Phil Key, Jason Bright's race engineer on the headsets there, trying to get an information on how it's affecting the car.
There's a yellow flag flying up here as well.
Look at this. This is the situation. This is how he did the damage to the front.
How far up is he?
Ooh, back
maybe not enough. It looked like he was early, but as Warren turned in, he may not have been far enough up, so race control have a long, hard look at that one.
In the meantime,
it's too late there.
It is Warren's predicament. Lucky that was a fairly soft contact with the tyres. 8.3 seconds Ambrose lead, incidentally. While all that was going on, Marcus has done the bolt.
Oh, is he cutting a tyre there? Looks like something flapping off the tyre.
You're going to have to pit this lap. It's rubbing too badly, Jason. It's rubbing too badly.
Well, that's the message he's got from the pits. They're watching this. They know that's cutting that tyre. He's got to bring it in.
Bow and Scape are at it there too. There was almost contact, perhaps a little touch.
That's going to hurt.
We can see it. It's torn, mate. It's torn the sidewall. Bring it in.
So the message is bring it in. Don't you dare stay out there with that tyre cutting itself to pieces. He's coming in. And this is going to hurt Jason Bright.
Well, there's no Bow. There's Bow up the inside of Lowndes.
Yep.
And Scape is following him through.
Lowndes has made a miscalculation on that turn. He's under attack now from Scape. Up the inside.
He's better positioned for one, though.
This is a great drag race here. Bow's clear, but Lowndes does shut the door. So Scape now has to be content with 7th place.
Now, meanwhile, all this fisticuffs going on. This has allowed Marcus Ambrose to build an 8.5 second lead over Stephen Richards in 2nd place. He's bolting. Let's go to the pits.
Yeah, well, down here, Marco. Actually, that tyre's not looking too bad at the moment. It's just shredding a fine bit off the outside. A lot worse when you look at it on television. They've whacked another full set of wheels on this, so he's going to have good pace, but lost valuable time.
Sure has. That's going to put him right to the back of the queue.
Paul Morris still holding on in 4th place. John Bow, Paul Wheel, Mark Scaife, as we see again Murph spinning from the inside. Paul Dumbrell, Craig Lowndes, Rick Kelly, that's your top 10. And there is the leader, the man who won the championship last year.
And without his closest pursuer in sight, Stephen Richards in 2nd. Having a real dust-up with Russell Ingall fighting over 2nd spot. But Ambrose has bolted. 9-second lead. He's got clear track in front of him.
There was just a couple of laps there where it was completely out of control. We had reports that it was one of the Orcon cars and the place went into chaos. People were going every which way. You just don't, sometimes very difficult to pick it up. And you lean on the car expecting to have the grip that you've normally got, and there was nothing there. What is emerging here is that the 2 SBR cars are just that slice above everybody, because Ingall's working away on the back of Richards at the moment, who's put in another great performance at this racetrack as he did 12 months ago. But Ambrose is just walking away 8.9 seconds, and Ingall is very competitive, so 2 of their cars in the top 3 is a pretty fair effort.
We should quickly point out before we go to the pits that the 2 cars between Marcus and Stephen Richards are a lap down. That's bad for Team Kiwi and Mark Winterbottom, the 2nd of Mark Larkham's cars.
Rusty?
Billy, I can tell you that here in pit lane is a massive long line now. The officials have been hard at work of concrete dust and absorbent sand, and the reason for it is a big long trail of oil here. Neil pointed out that one of the Orcon cars may have been responsible. In fact, we've just seen the retirement of Jason Barguana. He's pitted. The team believes it's differential oil, so Barnes is out of this one, and that would explain the spins.
And we had one of the Konica cars earlier in the day, Andrew Jones, had a similar problem and just scattered diff oil everywhere, and again people were going off left, right and centre. It's a track where, as you clearly know, there is no room for mistakes. So this is emerging as a terrific battle here, and Morris is not far away from it either. So Richards, Ingall, Morris, Wheel, Scaife, Dumbrell, Lowndes, Kelly, Murphy, the top 10. Murphy's really got out of it pretty well, all things considered. This is Scaife, Zinger replay, going into the final corner with all that oil on the road.
This was the incident you saw just before we went to the commercial break.
Very good brakes there. Brilliant. Didn't know at this stage of the race you could stop that quickly. But we can promise you that Scaife did in fact get past. And that 6th position is not too shabby considering he didn't even make the top 10 shootout. Marcus Ambrose, though, his lead now, 9.5 seconds.
Stephen Richards in 2nd, Ingall in 3rd, Paul Morris in 4th, Wheel in 5th. Scaife now up to 6th. After starting outside the top 10.
Incidentally, Jason Bright in 15th position after taking that stop to pull the guard off the tyre and replace rubber.
Apart from Tony Longhurst's unfortunate crash earlier in the week, the Castrol boys are doing well here. Richards in 2nd, Dumbrell in the older VX Commodore. He's up to 7th.
Now I believe we've got Paul Radicic wired up in the pits. Can you hear us, mate?
I sure can, Billy.
A very up and down weekend. You're right on the money in terms of qualifying speed, but not such luck in the race.
I think this place hates me, doesn't it? Every time I come here, something happens. But do you think the Triple Eight car, the better electrical car, was running well? To come in, put on a new set of tyres and went out in the fronts. Just I turned the back of the pit there, turned left, just wouldn't turn around and just sort of went straight into the tyre wall. It's done enough damage not to be able to repair it and get it back out there.
Max had his share of troubles as well. You're both well positioned at one stage.
Yeah, it's how you got to get to the finish. You know, you can be well positioned in half the race and not get to the other half. It's that's the way it goes, and the guys will work hard tonight. We'll get it together. And I started last year and finished fourth, so anything's possible. The cars are well capable of running up there, and better luck tomorrow for both of us.
Paul, it's Mark Osler. I was talking to your boss Roland Dane earlier in the day, and he said we don't have any doubts about our engineering strength. What we've got to do now is become a great race team, and I guess that takes time, doesn't it?
It sure does, and you know we've got to learn to run before we can walk, before we can run. And you know, so far the cars have come out of the box and gone extremely well, but we're going to have little problems along the way. You know, new car, brand new team, so on and so forth. But very pleased the way it's come out. It's just frustrating that we have to come to such an abrupt end on today's racing.
Well, relax and enjoy some time out of that heat in the car, mate, and get yourself ready for tomorrow. Best of luck.
Thanks a lot.
Paul Radicic, what a great story Triple Eight Racing are, considering that FPR started a year before them, the second British-owned team, and they are outpacing them so far. Although, having said that, of course, Craig Lowndes is running 8th on the track. I'm talking about actual car speed, of course. 61 laps down. Interesting situation. Ambrose now nearly 10.5 seconds in front of the field. Stephen Richards has a bit of breathing space on Ingle. Likewise, Ingle on Paul Morris. And Paul Wheel doing a great job of staying ahead of Scaife, Dumbrell and Lowndes. Murphy and Kelly make up your top 10. One heck of a contest here, but there's no doubt Marcus Ambrose is starting 2004 as he finished 2003.
Unfortunately, it looks like this great fight, gutsy fight by Lowndes into the top 10 is all going to be for nothing. What a shame.
Well, swings and roundabouts for the Ford fans. Ambrose is running away, but they're two other major teams.
Remember, they'll see some of the data on the telemetry, so they'll be seeing some numbers that we're not. There'll be a variety of information available to the NGO. Look, it's actually hemorrhaging pretty heavily. See all the fluid?
Yeah.
She's dead.
What a shame.
Been a tough fight for Craig because this team...
Oh, look at the amount of effort he's put in. The guy is just so quick in the car. So many times he's carried these cars just through his sheer ability. And now, once again, all that effort's come to zero.
Well, if you ran a pole in pit lane amongst his peers, of course, he'd be right up the top as the most respected driver. But he simply hasn't had the machinery underneath him the last few years.
And that was Ashley at the rear of the car, who works in the engine department at FPR, and they'll have a bit of a look at that. And their focus now is for tomorrow. Meanwhile, this guy just continues to rattle on around 10.3 seconds, so he's just maintaining that margin at the moment. And all weekend, their cars have looked very, very good. Right from the outset, they've been super strong.
Interesting to see if they can turn the fortunes around with 4 teams in this race. This will be the third win on the Saturday if they can bring it home, but Ford have never won the Sunday.
This is a battle that's just recently emerged because there was quite a gap between the top 5, as I said earlier, but Wheel has closed up on Morris fairly quickly. And in turn, of course, Murphy has been making this tremendous run through from further back, and he's attacking Paul Wheel right now, and Morris is within sight as well.
Makes you wonder where Murphy would have been track position-wise if that strategy hadn't have gone Buckley. Buried him right down to the pack at the restart. He's had to fight back through pure race pace, and he's got plenty of that.
Just 10 laps to go. Here goes Murph for a run down the inside on Wheel, who had a real drama with this car. Started from the rear of the grid, but he'll actually be pretty happy to have ended up where he is in the field.
See Murphy's car just stepping sideways under acceleration out of turn 4. So he's probably using up his tyres a fair bit as well.
I believe we have Craig Lowndes in the pits.
Billy, there's an overwhelming smell of burnt oil in the Ford Performance Racing garage, and one very dejected Craig Lowndes, something we don't often see. Did it give you some warning? Just talk us through it.
About probably 6 lap prior to coming in now. It started to miss, and it was intermittent. So we thought we could press on, and I think we had about an 8-second lap or gap over John Bowes. So we thought we could get to the finish I guess, secure some sort of position and look good for tomorrow. But the boys kept an eye on the engine with the telemetry, and they just decided in the end to save the engine and get ready for tomorrow.
Murphy and Morris, old warriors from the Super Touring days, so they've had plenty of battles over the years, and of course in recent times in V8 supercars.
Here he goes. Under attack into the final turn. Morris gives him racing room, and Murphy moves up into 4th spot. Russell Ingall the next on his target list.
P4.
Look at the amount of damage on that windscreen in Murph's car. It's got cracks and splits all over it.
There's been some fairly sensible driving towards the end of the race with 8 laps to go. Obviously, as Neil pointed out, that there's so little difference in the point score that it's just not worth fighting for some of these positions as Bargwanna gives those guys up the front a lot more room. He's a lap down, of course, due to earlier problems. They all want to be here again in the fight tomorrow, and the action is guaranteed as we see a great conclusion coming up to the first of our races at the Clipsal 500. Welcome back, and we have a positional change here. Yes, Paul Wheel at the inside of Paul Morris moves into 5th position. Greg Murphy just ahead of them in 4th. A tremendous fight back. Your race leader by 10.7 seconds is Marcus Ambrose over Stephen Richards and Russell Ingall. Here's another look. Oh, here is further back of the field. This is the edge of the top 10, and it's Rick Kelly and Cameron McConville coming together, and Garth Tander was also almost caught up in that.
Marcus now easing down to a 26.2, still with an 11.7 second margin. There's Glenn, he's in 10th, as you just mentioned.
And Warren Luff has sort of dropped back a little bit, but we knew he didn't have the car speed based on yesterday's times, but still a good position for him to be in his first big V8 supercar race.
Glenn's now moved his family to southeast Queensland. He lives on the Gold Coast, and he's got a suntan these days, and is away from the stress of having to run a race team, which is good for him. He's doing a lot of training. Very much looking forward to being competitive in this year's championship.
Well, I have to say, I spoke to him last year, and he was talking about the move then, and the weather did play a big part. It was, he wanted to be in that warm climate. 11.1 seconds the gap, Marcus Ambrose. He's held that beautifully without working the car too hard.
Amazing how that turned around for Warren Luff. He's in 11th place at the moment at one stage there. After some great strategy by DJR, he was up battling for the lead in 2nd spot. Had to come in together with Jason Bright, put him down the order a bit.
He has about 5 seconds on Rick Kelly, so I think that'll be enough to see him home in that position.
It looked like there's quite a visibility issue with Murphy's windscreen, or am I just daydreaming? It just doesn't look terribly clear. Maybe have a bit of oil on it. Oh, sorry, Rick Kelly. Yeah, look at it. It looks shocking.
Well, there's been a bit of oil dumped out there today, so I don't know what he's picked up, but a lot of it found its way onto the windscreen.
Oh, yeah.
There's a good shot with the sun on it.
Yeah, it's more than a bit of an issue, isn't it?
Like driving a tank. Trying to look through the gaps there. We might have even tried to clear it with the windscreen wiper, but it's probably made it worse.
So the man of the moment, and a lot of moments last year, Marcus Ambrose, flashing, saluting the flags that are greeting him as he hunts around this circuit in the closing stages of race 1. Don't forget, he did this last year. He won this race last year but did not win the round. Mark Scaife climbed out of jail and took the round overall, and Scaife has positioned himself well enough to do that again this year if the car is good enough. But we suspect on the form we've seen this weekend that it won't be as easy in 2004. But Marcus Ambrose has driven today like a champion. It's always harder to defend the championship than it is to win it, they say. But Marcus Ambrose is starting about as well as you can. Victory in race 1 of the Clipsal 500.
Absolutely perfect race. Just getting better. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Paul. Ross, Jimmy.
Well, Russell Ingall all over the place as he exited turn 13, heading for the finish line, but he takes 3rd place. Stephen Richards sandwiched in between them. A great result all round for Stone Brothers. Congratulations to Jim there and Ross. Greg Murphy finishing in 4th place. And a great drive from Paul Wheels, cementing the form showed by Keys Wheels team. Jason Bright, of course, did not have the fortune, but he certainly had the pace this weekend. Paul Morris, great result in 6th place. Mark Scaife, as I mentioned earlier, securing 7th. Dumbrell, great team result there for Larry Perkins, with Stephen Richards, of course, up on the podium, and Glenn Seaton and John Bowe rounding out the top 10, but Bowe ahead of Seaton at the finish. Warren Luff, a noteworthy 11th position, as Marcus Ambrose salutes the fans. Kelly, Jones, Bright, Winterbottom, Baird, McConville, Bernard, Tander, and Stephen Johnson. There is Stephen Richards. '96 championship points. Recapping here the placings, Glenn Seaton finishing in the top 10, just behind John Bowe. Warren Luff, great situation for him, in spite of the fact that he was much closer to the lead, of course, but we sort of knew that with the car speed he had, that wasn't going to hold for very long. Further down the order, some pretty sad stories, actually. Jason Bargwanna a long way out, and quite a few DNFs in a race that saw, as Richo mentioned, lots of passing, lots of hard driving and lots of carnage.